All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to talk about an epic thing that happened on Saturday Night Hypnosis, which was yesterday at the time of this filming, where Alyssa Mercante decided it was in her best interest to join in on our chat and announce to the world about how stunning and brave she is because she raised $20,000 for a scam charity to fund mental illness. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, she really thought that she had something here, and now we have a video here from Smash JT that not only goes over what happened during my stream, but also goes into a little bit more about the background of the charity that they were donating to.
Come fight me. Physically. Bitch.
Now, keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, I've made this very clear. Whenever I say they watch, let it be known that they do. This is why I always say they're constantly watching, because they're the ones who are lurking in the chat. If you ever wonder who your lurkers are, just know it's most likely a Kotaku. You're in a list. So let's get into this video from Smash JT. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. Let's do it.
Mind-blowing. But before I even get into that kind of stuff, let me recap what Hypnotic said on Twitter. Alyssa Mercante left lurker mode tonight on Saturday Night Hypnosis. She always watches. Came into my chat and tried to brag about how she raised $20,000 for trans people in her stream, most of which came from industry insiders who felt they had to donate. Which is true, diving into Alyssa's retweets when people were sharing everything that she's been.
So this is someone called Jesse Vitelli, says so many incredible people made this thing work, blowing past 22,000 for Trans Lifeline. Sometimes the internet can remind us that people can still do good in the world. Forever proud of all of us involved and Alyssa Mercante for making this all happen. Now you're wondering probably who is this person? Well, Smash JT shows it.
Saying about this trans activist stuff that she.
Former associate editor at Prima Games, bylines at Kotaku, Inverse, Game Informer, and more. Published author, talks about Final Fantasy XIV. Interesting.
She's been pushing most, if not all, of the people she's retweeting that.
We got another person, Giovanni Colatonino. I'm sorry, I totally murdered that. Colantonio, real talk. Alyssa Mercante has spent the entire year enduring constant, unimaginable harassment. Instead of being defeated by it, she turned that shit into over $20,000 for Trans Lifeline. That's how you do it. Turn hate into love. Honored to have helped a bit today. Now you gotta wonder, who is this person? Let's continue.
Have been donating over sums of $300.
Senior gaming editor at Digital Trends, previously worked at Inverse.com, speedrun by Polygon, podcast LTR cast, I'm literally Kate Bush. Very interesting.
Have been people who work in the industry themselves, almost trying to.
Tom Caswell, via website run by labor-abusing, apartheid-loving, deeply unfunny, insecure, blah, 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 and still climbing. You gotta wonder, who is this person?
Validate like, hey, I'm with you guys,
My dad says I'm better singer than Paul McCartney, and I agree. Video at GameSpot. Giant Bomb. So again, this is not a made-up thing, ladies and gentlemen. I said this statement because it is true and it was obvious. All you got to do is look at most of the donators who were actively participating, whether on Twitter or in the actual chat during the stream. It is very obvious that a lot of them were industry insiders. Most of them were industry insiders, whether they were gaming journalists, whether they were actors within the industry, whether they were developers within the industry. It doesn't matter. It's like an echo chamber. The only people supporting it are people within it, and that is it. But let's continue.
I'm giving money to this. Please don't cancel me. I'm one of you. In perpetuating this madness. I chimed in with, Alyssa just couldn't help herself. Pure jealousy and envy. Grasping at any straws for semblance of relevance. Comedy gold. This was some can't miss content tonight. Thanks for having me on, Hypnotic. Always a pleasure. One for the ages. And that was really the end of it until I started diving deeper into the Trans Lifeline charity and wondering, where is this money actually going? And how much of a dent is $20,000 going to really make with whatever they're doing over there? And then I found the executives and how much they were paid. And the information I could find was relevant up until the year 2022.
Now, really quick, when it comes to charities like this, they are almost always scams, okay? You can look at even Black Lives Matter, for example, when they were taking millions upon millions of dollars in donations that all went to buying mansions in white neighborhoods for the most part. You guys got to look at this stuff and realize that these are the actual definitions of grifters. They're conning people. They're tricking people into making them think that they care about their cause, and then they're taking their money and their donations and their goodwill, and they turning it into personal gain, monetary gain, housing gain, whatever. They're turning it all into their own personal gain. They are conning everybody who donates to this particular charity. But that's okay, because at the end of the day, listen, man, they're going to convince these people because a lot of them are emotionally easy to convince. All it takes of them to say, hey, I see you, I care about you, and suddenly they're opening their wallets. Now, granted, this only happens when it's time to actually showcase a virtue signal, because God knows they're not going to open their wallets for anything else that they claim to want to support on Twitter. They'd rather just like and retweet it, and that's simply it. But let's continue.
It looks like since then the staff has done a full reorganization and has grown by more than double of the amount of people working there, and this charity has taken on a life of its own. But what do they actually do? According to the Trans Lifeline mission statement, Trans Lifeline is a grassroots hotline and microgrants 501c nonprofit org offering direct emotional and financial support to trans people in crisis for the trans community by the trans community, which I guess on the surface sounds admirable. You're giving money to people that need it because they identify as trans, which, by the way, by doing that enters up a whole slew of questions of like identity and how you identify and who's even identifying themselves and how they qualify for it and all that kind of stuff. I'm not even gonna get into that tangled web of weaves that could lie, but
I can only imagine the actual books of this charity, right? How are you going to prove that somebody who you gave money to was trans, and what was the reason of which you gave them money? It doesn't make any sense, right? So you're just going to give them money for having an identity, and that's literally it. This entire thing screams scammy, because it's very hard for them to divvy out the funds to people, because literally anybody can just say, I'm trans. What's your vetting process? How do you even know who's trans and who's not? It's just amazing to me, and it just seems like this is a very easy way to get fast money. That's really what it is, which is why in the beginning of this video I didn't play it, but he makes a reference to Gerard the Completionist, because even he would be jealous of something this easy to scam.
But the specifics of the people that work there and the pay that they get really exposes what's going on here.
Look at that. We got 154K salary, 142K salary.
As of 2022.
122,000 salary, 111,000 salary.
These 5 directors and board members were being paid over $100,000 annually. For most of them were part-time or doing this as part of other jobs that they do. When I looked into them on LinkedIn, where this wasn't the only thing that they even did. And the co-executive directors were making $150,000 or so.
I gotta imagine that the reason why Alyssa Mercante probably picked this particular charity is she probably knows somebody there or got in talks with somebody there, and since this is a scammy ass charity, they probably offered her a cut of the money. So they say, hey, if you can raise XYZ amount of money, we'll give you XYZ back. So out of that $22,000 they raised, she probably got like $5,000 or something out of it. You know what I mean? Because grifters are gonna grift. They're gonna want to share the money from people who are stupid enough to give it to this particular charity.
Annually. And the 5 directors back then, over $500,000 combined in salaries for their efforts, which charities do cost money to run, and it does take an effort, but you can't tell me that a board of director co-chair of Trans Lifeline should be getting over $150,000 annually for outreach phone calls. Are we serious now? Which would explain the disparity between their income and expenses. When diving into this, the chart has been lopsided as of 2022, where their revenue was $4.7 million, but their expenses surpassed $5.3 million. They're spending more than they were getting, doing whatever the hell it is they do. Phone calls for people that are trans and in crisis, whatever that's supposed to mean.
Yeah, no, this thing seems ultra sus, man. And you know what? It's not surprising that somebody like Alyssa Mercante, sorry, JT, this is a terrible pause. It's not surprising that somebody like Alyssa Mercante would be the one to support a ridiculous charity like this, man. So at the end of the day, it is a funny-ass thing what happened on Saturday Night Hypnosis. We obviously had a good time with it, and our notion remains true. If she ever wants a time where she wants 5 minutes to herself with no interruptions and she can speak freely on our platform, we'd be more than happy to host her and have a conversation if she ever is going to grow the balls to actually do it. And considering her recent pictures, it looks like she's slowly but surely going in that direction of transing herself. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.